I walked out 5.
You did walk out 5.
I was walking on sunshine.
Yeah.
I said I love being a human. The secrets of the
We
universe.
were barely out of the theater when she was like, I love cinema. Hello, darlings, and welcome back to another episode of Pause Pod, the podcast where two gals who love film try to yap their way into becoming indie darlings. And if you're watching and if you cannot read it, we'll try to get closer. Our shirts today say indie darling. And also, if you're not watching, you might not see something magical that doesn't happen every week. In that...
Wait. Apropos of today.
Apropos,
We're tactile.
together.
We are tactile together, live from Hodgepodge. Oh! We're live from Pod HQ, aka
London.
aka my living room.
London town. We are in London. We are at Carabet's home.
Abode.
Home studio.
Home studio, really, because what did we do yesterday?
We had a whole content photo shoot yesterday.
Rebrand loading.
Not even really much of a rebrand, just a
brand. Y'all, we're trying to get serious.
We're trying to get serious. We're trying to get real serious about this.
We broke out the 2008 digital camera.
We sure did. And let's be honest, that 2008 camera took the best photos I've ever seen of myself in my entire life.
Like, I hate to be one of those people that's like, it was a simpler time, but like,
It was.
the focus was clear.
Like, it was gorgeous. My skin had never looked clearer. I've never been brighter.
And that's the thing, is like, filter this, filter that. The blur on a 2008 digital handheld point and shoot camera, pores not there.
Non-existent.
Pores non-existent. Shout out to our friend Rachel, who literally took every photo of us.
Shout out to Rachel and Jen, because she's our brand manager. Every graphic design that you see on our pages comes from Miss Rachel. And we, as much as we try to pay her, she refuses. And so
Girl won't even let me buy her a pint.
won't even let us buy her little treat at M&S.
She's fulfilled through creative endeavor.
She is filled through the magic of love and friendship. And for that, we are grateful. And so dedicating this up to Miss Rachel.
Dedicating this episode to Rachel. But yeah, we're super excited for those new branded photos to come out and to get serious about that.
To get serious about this pod and our endeavors. Not to say we weren't serious before, of which we were, but to just really, really outwardly express what we've internally been manifesting.
To get comfortable with being perceived.
To get comfortable with being perceived. And I think that was a lot of our hesitation, but now I think we're kind of over that for the most part.
Yeah, you have a fake sleepover in your house and you shoot it with the 2008 camera, and then the confidence skyrockets.
Absolutely.
But we're super excited to be here together today because this is a big episode.
This is a big episode with one of, like, if not the film bro director of all film bro directors.
I would say he's probably, like, not to be dramatic, but I think he's probably one of, if not the greatest living director that we have.
I absolutely agree.
I'm making myself nervous now that I say that.
Why are you making
I just wanted to
nervous?
be proud.
I think he'll be pleased no matter what.
Okay.
I think he is an appreciator of art and of honesty and of collaboration and exploration.
Damn. I agree.
Yeah, at least that's what I hope from him.
I get nothing but warm light from that man.
Same. Same.
And we are talking about none other than the father of cinema himself, Stephen Spielberg. Goodness me. So today we're going to be talking about Spielberg's latest release, Disclosure Day. For the time this episode is out, will be out for a few weeks in the box office, but it's already slam dunking, which
it is.
Expect nothing less from Stevie. And then we're going to throw it back to 1982 with, I think, one of his most treasured films, which is E.T.
If not one of the most treasured films, again, of all time. Are we really just hyping this man up? Like,
I don't... Does Steven Spielberg need hype from us?
I don't know.
I don't think he does.
I think we're just like, everything he does turns to gold and it's magic and wonder.
But I think it's one of those things, and it's wild, but I think we're talking about somebody who probably instilled people's love of cinema in them.
Yeah.
Like, he is one of those directors, and now we can see his decades-long career and see the people that he has influenced, see his influence in other films. Like, that is what a legend is. And I think he, not to get ahead of it, but I think he is somebody who has always made impactful work, but the magic of filmmaking is in his work. Like, he's a sentimental man, and he really strikes a balance of wonder in all his work. So, like, no wonder you'd be inspired as a filmmaker by watching Steven Spielberg. You know?
Yeah.
Anything else before we dive into it? I don't know if we said our names. I'm Kara.
And I'm Danny.
If you're new here, which hopefully the power of Steven by our side, this will reach some new listeners.
Wow. We were just so excited to talk about
Yeah, I think
him.
I blacked out for a little bit.
Like, we were just so excited to talk about him that we just completely skipped over ourselves, which we will be the least interesting part of this entire episode.
But without further ado, shall we press play on Disclosure Day? Okay, so I'll take the synopsis for this one because I feel like you want to do E.T. Disclosure Day. I feel like we experienced this film in one of the best ways possible, which is what I like to call through movie church, which is catching a 10 a.m. screening, getting a coffee, getting a pastry, and a matcha. And the first thing you do today or that day is watch a film. I love that. That's the way I want to start all my days.
It was a lot of fun.
In the words of my queen Greta Gerwig, the two best times of day to watch a film is 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Has she really said that?
Yeah, and why, you might ask?
I do.
10 a.m., you go in, you watch the film. Oh my gosh, you go to brunch or lunch and discuss the film. Then 4 p.m., you go, you watch the film, you go to dinner and you discuss the film. And we're not up into the wee hours of the night. You're fully alert watching the film in the prime of your cognitive function.
And then most people do it the opposite way of they'll go to dinner first and then movie.
Losers.
Like that's the the atypical way to do it.
Get on my level.
Wow. I love that, Greta. Anyways, Disclosure Day.
Anyways, so Disclosure Day is kind of a hard film to describe, and I do think you need to experience it to fully get it.
Yeah.
But basically, we open Disclosure Day with a hacker character played by Josh O'Connor, who we know he has stolen some precious information from a quasi-government organization, and people are hunting him down for it. And later we learn that this information is video proof that aliens exist, and that the government has been working with a private organization to document, experiment, and steal the technology of these aliens since the early 1970s. And simultaneous to that, we have the story of another character played by Emily Blunt, who is experiencing sort of out-of-body behavior.
Yeah.
She suddenly can look at a person and read them and know everything about them. She can speak any language, and she's kind of going insane, but she is drawn to Josh O'Connor's character. And the film follows their two separate storylines until they eventually come together and the truth about the universe is revealed.
In a very, climactic way.
Very climactic way. But what I want to start with, I think, is Emily Blunt's character. Because to me, her character is what distinguished this film in the genre and from Spielberg's other work.
Yeah.
I don't think this film could have worked without her character.
And to that point, I personally think that she was the best character.
Oh, she carried.
Like, she carried the film for me.
Emily,
first of all, Emily's performance in this, fantastic. I know that she's a good actor. We've said this already. We know that she's a brilliant actor. We've been known this. There was just something about her in this film that just like was a standout performance for me.
Well, she's the beating heart of the film. And I think on to what I was saying about why she's distinguished in this film is because, so later we learn that, spoiler, you know this podcast by now.
Unless you're new, and we do spoil quite a bit to discuss.
Analysis. So we learn later that the reason that Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt's characters are so drawn to each other is, I'm going to look up their names because I can't keep saying Emily Blunt.
Daniel and Margaret.
Thank you. The reason that Daniel and Margaret's characters are drawn to each other is because they both, as 10-year-olds, were abducted by aliens and given gifts by the aliens. Daniel was given the gift to understand the alien language through mathematics so he can understand them. And then Emily Blunt's character was given the gift to understand any human deeply that she comes in contact with. So she can look at them and, as I said, know everything about them, know who they love most in the world, know what they did that day, know what language they speak, to understand us. And I think the understanding us is the key part, because I think at the end of the day, this isn't really a film about aliens, it's a film about humans. And the part that got me boohoo crying was when I was kind of thinking about, because of how he set up her character and that she really is the catalyst of this. Like, she clears so many roadblocks because she has this ability to emotionally communicate with anyone. You don't really need to believe in aliens. You just need to believe in each other.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what Stephen was telling us.
Yes. And something that, to your point of what her powers were, of like, he can like understand the aliens, but Margaret like feels almost like a human translator. And in so many alien movies, the crux of it is us trying to communicate with the extracurricular, the extraterrestrial beings. And so much of those films are centered around that. But in this one, they gave us a translator, but she wasn't just a translator of us to them. She was a translator of us to each other, almost, which is what you were saying.
No, exactly. And I think you're right in that, like, it's funny that as a whole genre, that's the crux of most of the films, right? A foreign being comes into human path, and they spend the bulk of the film either understanding or misunderstanding that being. But we don't actually communicate with the aliens directly until the very end of the film. And most of it is Margaret's character. And it got me thinking about if Spielberg is known as a director who loves wonder and the extraordinary. And he's made other alien films before. Like, he's not new to this. He's true to this.
Right.
At this point in his career, like, if this is a film by a filmmaker who has made multiple alien films before this, I think he's trying to veer us away from the extraordinary and telling us that you can't come to fathom the astonishing and the extraordinary if you don't first understand the ordinary.
Right.
Like, how can we as humans even conceive of greater beings if we are still intrinsically misunderstanding each other?
Which I think is what was so good about World War III being the backdrop of this film.
Such amazing texture.
Because there was already a massive global conflict already happening, and most wars are started over misunderstanding or miscommunication, or like just not even miscommunication, blatant like obtuse and like direct misunderstanding, like a purposeful misunderstanding. And the conflict, and one of the main characters as well, or side character. I don't know what to call Jane, but Jane.
She's a secondary character.
I would say that she's a secondary character, even though she does have her own
central role
and her own character arc, like full-blown character arc. But when she was having that first initial conversation with Daniel after finding out about the aliens, and she was like, we're already on the brink of collapse as humanity with this war going on. Like, we can't handle this as well. And I think that that was such an important texture to add to the film of like, yes, but we still deserve to know. And like, yes, but why couldn't have that been a key to us coming together? You know what I mean? Like, we're only viewing the negative aspects of it, of like, we as a human species can't handle the knowledge of extraterrestrial beings. But in this movie, it's asking us like, or they were asking like, why do we get to choose that for everybody?
And why do we think that of ourselves?
And exactly.
I think you're spot on in that you're talking about this sort of deliberate obtuseness. Like, sometimes it's easier just to say, like, we can't handle it. And I think one of the questions that you're saying this film is asking is not just about, you know, these questions of the universe, but the keeping of knowledge, and knowledge as power, and, you know, tying into the political, like, geopolitical backdrop of this film, knowledge is the greatest asset that we don't know that we have. And Daniel's character being like, all those pros and cons aside, like, this knowledge is like air and water. Like, if this is an innate part of our galaxy and we're a part of the galaxy, then we need to know.
Yeah.
This film battles with the theoretical and the theological, yes, theoretical and the theological, and then the practical. And I think Jane is correct to point out that, like, okay, like, it's all well and good to think like this is our intrinsic right, but there are whole wars that could be started
because
over
of
this.
And also a religious aspect of it, because she brought in that we could view them as deities, and that the people, that humanity would lose faith in God, or like whatever God that they believe in. And that was something that played into Margaret's character as well, because when she finally converges and like meets with the group, and that lady like drops to her knees and starts basically praying to her, and she was like, I don't want to be someone's religion. You kind of got what Jane was saying on that, like, I think people are desperate for something to believe in and to something to have faith in.
Well, because the universe is more vast than we can even conceptualize. And so religion as a construct to be a raft in this wide ocean of the universe, like, people need something to hold on to. And if your view of how the world is structured is blown open, then chaos could ensue. But at the end of the day, and this is a great turning point in Jane's strand of the story, is her talking to her former nun mentor, kind of maternal figure in her life. And the nun quotes Genesis to say that we are God's, I'm paraphrasing, y'all. You know that I don't have Genesis memorized. But that we are God's greatest creation on earth. And that people always forget the on earth part, because having the scope of your universe be just you and be smaller is easier to handle. But from the start, we haven't been alone. Yeah. And the comfort of God's creation not just being us is that we don't shatter the illusion of that deity, but we widen to encompass all that, you know, is in our galaxy.
And it almost makes like God even more powerful and even more like great, because it's like, yeah, you made us, but then it's like you're really truly conceptualizing like how large the universe is and how great and expansive and wide it is, which I think is a lot of what Jane came to understand and to like really hold on to towards the end of the film.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to zero in on the aliens for a second.
Let's go back to the creatures.
Let's reground to the aliens, because I was at first initially a bit surprised as to the production design of the actual aliens that we see. And then the more I thought about it, I think it's quite a genius choice. But the aliens that we see are your classic, like, big head, small body, humanoid alien. Like, when you think of alien, this is the alien. A lot of classic kind of sci-fi genre conspiracy theory aliens. And I think in other films, especially like, you know, genre bending and innovating films like Arrival or other alien films, try to take us away from that humanoid classic caricature of the aliens.
Or even Project Hail Mary.
Exactly. Like having us conceptualize an alien being different than what we've always known. And I was like, why did he make this deliberate choice? And I think, going back to our talk of Stephen Spielberg being a director who wants to point us toward wonder and point us toward expansive thinking, I think on a small level he wanted to validate, like, what you've always been told in all the storybooks and movies that is not real is real. And taking this classic childhood caricature of an alien and making it real is then opening up for you to believe in other things. Because at first it seemed a bit out of place for me, but I think it was a very deliberate choice on his part.
I can definitely see that. Because the entire thing is like, as you were saying, like, everything you thought could never be real and like those magical, fantastical worlds is actually being proven to be true. And I can see him being like, yeah, and then what? Like, and like, and how do we move from this, and how do we coexist and cohabitate with these things that we never thought could happen and never thought could exist and never thought could come into our reality and exist in this plane with us? And how do we go from there? And that's exactly how he ends the movie, is that like the entire world finds out that this thing that they thought was their childhood nightmare basically come true. And then how do we move on? Like, how do we push forward? And I think it was also really important for it to be like that as well, because of how the world reacted to seeing the videos, and how even though they looked like that worst imagined or like stereotypical version of the alien that we've seen beforehand, you still saw the human race feel deep empathy for these creatures and for these beings, even if it was a childhood nightmare come to life. They got over it like that and was like, I'm feeling deep empathy for this being that is being mistreated right in front of my eyes. And
shout out to Miss who played the news anchor.
The news anchor, yeah.
She gets award for best day player. I'm telling you. Because towards the end of the film, just to contextualize it, our ragtag team has taken this footage, and this footage is videos of crash sites, videos of torture and experimentation on aliens, just decades of footage from the early 70s from this private company called Vortex, which has been working with the government. And I thought it was interesting too that it was like it only could have lasted this long through a privately funded company, because then you don't have to like use taxpayer money and like do more washing of the information, which was interesting. But they released the footage through local news, and it's picked up by New York. And so this New York anchor is all of a sudden she's on air and it switches, and she's watching the videos for the first time along with everybody. And she has such a genuine emotional reaction.
Yeah.
And as a news anchor, she's forced to narrate what she sees, but it turns into her forcing to narrate how she's feeling and her reactions. And the way she's taking it in, she's just having the most human response and tearing up at not only the astonishment of everything you've ever known being different, but like you said, seeing these creatures in pain and having an empathetic response. And
still being so grounded enough to do her job and be like, yes, I'm experiencing this as well, but this is information that I have to get out, and that I have to present to the masses in a way that's comprehensible, like to comprehend the incomprehensible.
100%. Another thing on our theme of this is a film about humans disguised as a film about aliens. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was Spielberg's use of reflections in this film. And this is a trademark. Spielberg uses like reflective shots where like he's shooting through glass so you can see what's being reflective off it, and then you can also see the person's face through it. So it's like a dual narrative shot happening. He did that a lot with Colin Firth's character, but also just shooting through mirrors in general. And I think it was paramount to this film specifically, again, because it's asking us to think about who we are. It's asking us to think about how we process information, how we view the world. And especially with Jane's characters, mirrors were used a lot as our character who is taking us through the religious ramifications of this experience and how she sees the universe and her place in it. I just thought it was so smart.
And I think it's interesting with Jane's character as well, because for a brief stint of her arc, she was being quote unquote possessed.
Yes. So because Wardex has spent Wardex? I'm like Daddy Warbucks. Because Vortex has been experimenting on and taking the technology they discover from the aliens and replicating it. There is this device throughout the film that's an alien device that can manipulate space and time, and he uses it to hijack people's consciousness. So he can act, he as in Colin Firth, the big baddie, can act through Jane without her consent or control.
And very complex. Yes, he was a baddie, but were any of the villains really truly villainous? Because it's like
they were just scared.
I think they were scared, and I think they were just they were trained, as I said, and we'll get into this further along, but they were trained agents, and as agents, you are trained to do what the government tells you to do. And if the government for years, since the 70s, has kept this information secret for the betterment of human race, like of the human species, they believe that it is their duty, like their soldieristic duty, to protect the people of the world from this information, because they truly believe it'll cause more harm than good. So like you can empathize with why they are going to the lengths that they're going through too.
No, exactly. I think again, this film is how will different people react to this information, and that's why I think the culmination of Disclosure Day, when the information is disclosed to the entire world, I also really appreciated that in a world of mass technology and social media and the attention economy, I was pretty astounded by the shots of everybody standing still and watching the same thing at the same time. Because it's sad to say, but like RIP event television, like we are not often all watching everybody in the world watching the exact same thing
at the same time.
And I think Spielberg was really smart to work with the reality of our modern technology and not against it. Like I would argue that this film could only be made in the last 10 years because its climactic moment is information spreading in seconds.
Yeah.
And we really only have the technology now to do that.
Yeah.
Spielberg has a knack for tapping into our human wonder, allowing ourselves to get to a place to be astonished. And I just let myself be like ushy gushy and like swept away by John Williams' score, and just I'm like, this was a blockbuster time, and I left elated.
A quick moment for the music, because the music is really what got me. the music
holds it all together.
The music is the glue that kept this entire film together, in my humblest opinion.
And Stevie and John have always been like that.
Yeah. Like, the music was such an integral, and obviously it is in any film, but in some more than others. It's such an integral part of this film. Now, we did walk out of the film with 2 different star ratings.
Yeah.
And I think we should talk about that.
Okay.
What was your star rating?
5.
You did walk out 5.
I walked out 5. And then only because, and I think this happens now when a director has such a breadth of work. Because in my letterbox, I did go 4.5. But I think it was because I was like, compared to all his other work, I was like, was this a 5 compared to E.T. or Indiana Jones or Jaws? Like, I don't know. I got kind of in my head, y'all. It happens sometimes. But I walked out 5.
You did walk out 5.
I was walking on sunshine. Yeah. I said, I love being a human. The secrets of the universe.
We were barely out of the theater when she was like, I love cinema. We were walking out the doors of our screening room, and she just goes, guys, I love cinema.
I love film. I literally did. But Spielberg will do that to you. He will make you fall in love with the medium.
Me and her boyfriend are looking at each other. We're like, yeah, it was good.
They literally were like, sweetie, you do whatever you want.
Well, we were very much like, film impacts people differently, obviously. As for me, I gave it a 3.5, and only because I didn't feel like it was the tightest like plot line. I think that, I don't know, there was a lot of decisions that were being made by these characters that just didn't feel like decisions that would be made by these characters. And they're, in being that they are trained agents, and a lot of the decisions that they were making on either side just did not make sense for a trained agent.
You see, I hear that John Williams score, and my disbelief is immediately suspended. I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, and yeah, I just think plot-wise, I don't think it was all the way there for me. But feeling-wise and thematically, it was a great film. Mm-hmm. Like, I enjoyed watching it. But thinking about the plot as a whole, I don't think it was all the way there for me.
It's interesting. I think maybe, too, like, that comes down to, like, different viewership patterns. Yeah. Because I think I rely on a feeling. But for me to get there, then the character and the themes have to be at a 10. And I think I was thinking about this the other day because I was talking about this in terms of reading and like, what are this podcast, Reading Glasses, shout out, was talking about your reading doorways, and that it's like, what is the element of the form that piques your interest the most? And I think I am definitely a character and theme doorway person when it comes to film. And you're definitely character as well, but I think you value plot over theme sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think we're both character in that we have to have a character to latch onto or we don't enjoy the medium. Or at least that is how it is for me. Hence why I couldn't do White Lotus. Sorry, no tea, no shade. Fantastic series. I just can't.
Taking out Spielberg and White Lotus in one foul swoop. Tighten up the screws.
No, but I need like a really tight plot for me to like really love a piece of media. Like,
you are the kind of viewer that's like logical.
And the thing about it,
tie that shit up.
I'm more willing to like tweak my logic like in a fantasy or like in something like this because it is illogical, like, you know what I mean? But the elements that need to be logical are those little details, like they are trained age, you know?
I can see that everything in this film was engineered to get us to a certain point. I think I factored in a level of recklessness as the film went on because tensions were increasing. But I can see that my factoring of recklessness is a Hollywood factoring of recklessness. It is not a government factoring of recklessness. I said they only play agents on TV.
It's like, this is all play pretend.
But that's really interesting. But that just goes to show that if you are a master like Spielberg, even if an audience member is not in for all of it, they can still be blown away by the film if your themes and your craft are strong enough.
Yeah, because I think this was one of the very first things that we said was that Margaret's character held the film together. Like, her character and her performance was just incredible. And, like, the feelings that were elicited in the film still hit, even if the plot wasn't all the way there for me. Like, I still felt every emotion that they were trying to portray and trying to get us to feel through the film, if that makes sense.
And that's all you really need.
Yeah, I think it was a really enjoyable watch.
I think it's also just nice to have, and this is going to sound, I guess, maybe trite, but I'm like, a true blockbuster film.
Yeah.
Like, we said this about Project Hail Mary, but there's something about, and maybe it's just Spielberg's style and because we find comfort in his theatrical releases, but when the theatrical release model works, it works. And I think, and we'll talk about this in our fast forward, but I think what we need, because some would argue like, oh, it only happened because Spielberg is Spielberg and he has his name attached to it and people will go out to see a Spielberg film. But I think what we can learn from that as an industry is we're in the business of making filmmakers, not films. And I think that creating legacies and giving people the chance to release theatrically over decades of a career, then you can make another Spielberg. And I've just been really thinking about that, which we'll get into in our fast forward. Okay, so shall we rewind into E.T.? Grab your tissues.
Oh, yes.
Take it away.
E.T. So E.T. tells the story of a little alien who gets left behind on Earth and stumbles upon a little human boy named Elliot who takes him in and tries to communicate with him and really like cherishes his time with him. And in all, they try to help E.T. get back home, communicate with his people, and get E.T. back home. And
E.T. phone home.
E.T. phone home.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's a really simple premise, and we both watched this in childhood.
We did.
As many do. Spielberg is, again, someone who instilled your love of cinema throughout the films you watched as a child. But I actually kind of forgot how big of a role Elliot's siblings play in the film as well. Michael and Gertie. Shout out to baby Drew Barrymore.
She was the cutest little thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
She is the cutest pot pie to ever pop pie.
To ever pop pie. She's so cute. She's so cute.
But I think the moments in this film where we were laughing out loud and we were really kind of swept up in it was when all three siblings were together with E.T. and the chaos that ensued. And even though Elliot is the first one that E.T. makes contact with and they have their special bond, seeing E.T. connect with the other siblings and seeing them come together who, when they were at the beginning of the film quite disconnected as siblings and then now moving as a united front was so sweet and so much fun. Like just kids hanging out, fun.
And you mentioned this when we were just talking about it in the way that Spielberg directs children, but this was one of the most authentic displays of sibling relationship I think I've ever seen. Like I could believe that they are siblings. You know, like the way that the older brother was very like teasing, but like would still ride or die for his little brother. Like Michael, unsung hero.
Michael is the unsung hero. And I think that the craft of this film is the balance between all the individual stories of the siblings and having them each have their moment. Like, one moment that really like gave me pause that I didn't remember from my watching as a child, and maybe that's age talking, is towards the end of the film when E.T. is sick. Michael kind of goes away from the crowd for a bit and has a moment by himself, and he crawls into his sibling's closet and has a moment amongst all the stuffed animals, and you're just with him as he's shriveling back into his younger self and having a moment of pure childhood vulnerability, because we know that their father is not in the picture. Michael is the eldest male in the house, and having him take a breath, I was like, this is the skill of a director, because so many people might have left that on the cutting room floor, but that was integral to Michael's arc.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you could tell that he really just like was feeling so much, but the way that he presented in front of the rest of his family was this bravado and was this like, I have to protect my siblings and I have to protect my mom, because throughout the film you see him protecting his mom's feelings and protecting like taking on the head of household kind of persona, and you could seeing him just revert back into that just reminds you that like he is just a kid, like he is just a baby, like he doesn't even have his license. And like,
this is the first time I've driven forward.
And yeah, as you said, I think it is really integral to Michael's character arc to see him in that state of like, oh my God, like just overwhelmed and just like needing the comfort and the safety of that space.
And the fact that we now associate that space with E.T. because E.T. lived in the closet, like it's a culmination of so many beautiful things. But I did want to back up a little bit towards the beginning to midway of the film. Another thing that I forgot about is that Elliot and E.T. are physically connected. As a child, I always just remember them as like bestie boos, but there is a physical connection between them to when E.T. is hurt and sick, Elliot is also hurt and sick. And I think, zooming out on this film, I think this film, like, not to be facetious, I think this film teaches children what love is. And to have this physical manifestation of what you feel, I feel, when you hurt, I hurt, that is love. And when, like, E.T. points to his heart and he says, ouch, and, like, just all these very tangible things to explain really big feelings, but at the same time, you're just investing in these characters because they're just so sweet and you love them so much. And that's why you bawl your eyes out at the end, is because they've taught us what this connection means.
Yeah, and it was, like, in that monologue that Elliot has when he's saying goodbye to E.T. when he thinks he's dead. And he was like, I don't know how to feel because I can't feel you. And like,
stop. Literally cut the cameras. But yeah, he's articulating what he's learned.
Articulating like what that connection has done. And I think it was alluded to a little bit in the beginning, that he really has been repressing a lot of his feelings post his dad leaving, and E.T. came in and showed him how to feel again and showed him how to express emotion and to just feel.
Yeah. And we've been alluding to it this whole episode, but I mean, Spielberg is known throughout his career for getting amazing childhood performances out of really, really young actors and just using children a lot in his storytelling. And you know, through talking about these bigger concepts with Disclosure Day and now E.T., like, one of the oldest but best tricks in the book is, and it's really hard to do, is to use a child's POV and the child's eye to aid in your storytelling. And I think because, again, he is such an imaginative director, that really works for him. But if you do it wrong, it just doesn't work at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I genuinely can't think of another director who can direct children in such a manner. I think the closest I've seen, well, not to diminish any director's ability to work with children, but something similar I've seen in a way of like shooting something through a child's eyes to portray very adult emotions in adult situations is My Father's Shadow.
100%, yes.
Through the children's eyes of the
civil unrest in Nigeria. Yeah.
But yeah, no, the way that he elicited feeling and emotion through these children outacted everybody in the film. Like every adult in the film. Like truly, truly performances of a lifetime.
And this, you just think this film would not work. It would not work if not for, like, your three main characters are children.
Mm-hmm. I found interesting was that there was this looming threat of these scientists. We didn't really even know what they were.
The Levi's models. Which we say that because a lot of the shots of them are from the waist down, so all you see is their jeans.
But that's the point I was trying to make, is that we don't see their faces.
Yeah, we don't know them
until the end of the film. And I'm just like, it was never about them.
And it was never about them. And I was actually surprised. So, because towards the end, when they do find ETs at this home, and then they go into the home and they're trying to save both Ellie and ET at the same time, it wasn't your typical, like, big, scary government coming in to snatch the alien and experiment on them. Like, they were trying to save him. Mm-hmm. And you could argue it's because he was connected to Elliot, so they didn't want to kill a human child. But, like, even, also I looked it up, and his character's name is just Keys. The main dude that you just see his keychain the whole time, and then he comes in with and talks to Elliot, the, like, lead scientist dude. Keys. Even when he goes in to talk to Elliot, the immediate start to his monologue is, I've been dreaming of this since I was 10 years old. So even the adults in this film are leading with childhood empathy of, I don't want to destroy this alien, I want to understand this alien. And even towards the end, they do turn slightly villainous in that they're trying to snatch E.T. back, because the key difference between the adults and the children is that the child understands that E.T. needs to go home, and the adults, for a time, want to keep him on the planet.
And it goes into, like, childhood empathy is like, he wants to go home, and that's all they understand, is that he wants to go home.
No, Lich, like Gertie being like, he wants to call somebody.
It just wants to call. Like, it just wants to make a phone call. Whereas the adults are like, yeah, it's wonderful and magical that he's here, and we have to, this chance was given to us. Like, they're seeing it as, like,
a miracle,
and the universe brought him to us, and, like, he can't go home because, like, he's here now, and we can use him, and we can study him, and it's such a feat in scientific exploration. Like, we can't let him go home. Whereas the kids are like, but he wants to go home.
He's calling his mom.
Like, so Keys is asking Elliot how E.T. came to him. And I mean, first of all, he came to me. He came to me. But
even you just saying it makes me want to cry.
He came to me. He came to me.
We gotta move on. I can't take it.
But he's holding his hand, and I think one of the last things he says to Elliot is, I'm glad he found you first. Now, if we circle back,
the Earth is round.
Disclosure Day, the first people to find the aliens, adults.
I have full body chills.
Adults.
I have full body chills.
Disclosure Day is what would happen if E.T. got discovered by the adults first and not by Elliot.
And taking that, running with it, in Disclosure Day, the only time they were able to unlock the true secrets of what the aliens gave them is by reverting to their childhood
self. And mind you, they did find the kids first. They found the little kids.
Because the aliens know.
The aliens know.
They know we need to go to the kiddos first because we're not going to waste our time with these adults. Yeah, I think that we could simply talk about Spielberg forever, and I really want to do more of his films on Pod. I think that he's just a gift that we'll keep on giving, and we'll definitely return. But shall we fast forward?
Let's.
Okay, so I was thinking about what we should talk about for fast forward, and I was thinking, even though this episode is going to come out in a week, like, it behooves us to talk about developments in the indie darling space. And that means talking about the indie darlings of the moment, Obsession and Backrooms.
Guys, I've prayed for times like these.
Oh my goodness, I love this question. But I want to talk about it in the context of the wider industry and what this means for other indie darlings out there. So for those that don't know, the industry has been in a tizzy the last few weeks because of unprecedented box office success by two feature debut directors, Curry Barker, who directed the runaway horror hit Obsession, and then also Kane Parsons, who directed the liminal space horror thriller Backrooms. And the industry doesn't know what to do because not only have they been huge success via word of mouth and just the film discussion space and the film fandom, but Obsession is now officially the highest grossing festival acquisition of all time, as well as Focus Features' biggest film ever.
Fucking hell.
So the film had a budget of $750,000 and has now, to date, grossed over $238 million globally.
That's insane.
That's unprecedented. That is crazy, crazy work. And then Backrooms, similarly, had a budget a little bit higher of $10 million and has made over $220 million globally. And has become the highest grossing movie of all time for A24 in the North American territory.
That's insane, knowing A24's catalog.
Insanity. And I think the reason that people are losing their minds is not just because they're debut feature directors and because of the crazy profit margin on these films, but because both of them came from digital media and YouTube creation. And now the industry is buzzing about this is the new pipeline. YouTube to feature film is the new pipeline. And this is how we're going to marry the internet and theatrical release space. And I alluded to this earlier with Father Stephen, but I saw an article where somebody was asking Steven Spielberg in his Disclosure Day press tour, like, what advice would you give to these two young filmmakers who have had crazy success right out of the gate, likening it to when Spielberg directed Jaws in his 20s. And he said, leverage it, enjoy it. Like, studio executives are now looking at you. The industry is looking at you. You've proven a point, but you start fresh with every film that you make. And to be a filmmaker is to constantly be starting over. And I just wanted to talk about all of that. I just wanted to talk about like what we think this means for the future of the industry, but also how do we conceptualize it in, like I said at the beginning, we're in the business of making filmmakers, not films.
And to the point of like the industry going up in a tizzy being like, oh, this is the new pipeline and like it's YouTube to filmmaking. It's like indie filmmakers have always been making these films of this caliber, and YouTube was just the way that it could get platformed. But had we been investing in indie filmmakers from this, because you can see it in festivals, like short films who get put in festivals. They're equally as good, but they just didn't have the platform. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so if indie filmmakers are platformed, if film festivals were meant to do that, you know what I mean? They were meant to discover indie talent. Uh, and I love that social media and stuff has offered a way for these filmmakers to be bolstered and to get their films in the eyes of the right people, but this has always been there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Would you argue that the reason why they're like, this is the new pipeline, this is the new pipeline, is because the way our industry has warped, we, as in the royal we of the industry, have damaged the festival
Yeah.
pipeline. The festival pipeline no longer exists in the way that it used to. And so now the internet is the new way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because festivals were a way for indie filmmakers to showcase their work to the industry in hopes of getting picked up, in hopes
Mm-hmm.
of getting discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And is that not just what social media is?
Mm-hmm.
Like anything you put out there can go viral
Mm-hmm.
and get you in front of the right eyes. But festivals were designed to make that happen for filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I can confidently say that that's what they've been doing recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what would you hope happens from this moment? Like, what do you hope the industry learns or responds to this unprecedented success?
I think it's showcasing what we've been talking about a lot on this podcast, in that the people are desperate for new stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what Obsession and Backrooms were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the industry just needs to turn their eyes to fresh talent. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that has just been the crux of it.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd also go further in that and say that I hope that the industry looks at these films not in a vacuum and not
Mhm.
try and recreate, okay, to have a hit horror film, you find somebody on YouTube and you buy one of
Exactly.
their films. It's like, no, again, let's look at the filmmaker. Let's look, like you said, why did they turn to YouTube? Like, how can we amplify these voices? And yes, capitalize on this new talent that is putting their work on the internet.
Mhm.
But let's not forget, like, the structural pipelines of this industry and the infrastructure that's in place to either help or hinder these
Mhm.
voices, and not just be like copy and paste, because I think the industry tends to do that. When
Exactly.
something works, you do it again.
Mhm.
And I get that from a business perspective, to replicate success, but we are a creative industry that needs creative solutions, and
Mm.
these two filmmakers sought their own creative solutions, so we should follow in the ethos and not
In the practice, in the
yeah,
exact
yeah.
practice. And that's something that we both really appreciated about A24 as studio, is that they are so willing to take a chance on a new director, and
Mm.
to not only take a chance on a new director, but foster that director and help that director grow.
Mhm.
And obviously it's paying off in droves for them. Look at
Mhm.
Celine's Song, look at, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Mhm.
paying off in droves for them. And that is what I think that the industry should take from this, is that
Mhm.
we need to be betting on new talent.
Mhm. And then I think growing it.
Yeah.
I think what we're both getting at, and what I hope, is that I think our current economy, our current attention economy, rewards one-hit wonders. But
Mm.
again, all roads lead back to Spielberg. If we want decades-long careers, if we want legacies, if we want 40, 50 years from now for people to get their butts in seats from just somebody's name, we need to commission their second film and their third film and give them the space to grow theatrically. And you mentioned Celine's Song. Like, I think that's a perfect example of not just commissioning a first time feature director because of their buzzy idea that excites you, but then saying, what else do you got? And then putting out
Mhm.
material. Yeah, it's really just gotten me thinking about longevity.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed. I've talked to you extensively about Obsession, and we will be posting a review of it.
Look out on our YouTube for Pause Pod After Dark.
But
always plugging, always working.
Always plugging, always working, always trying to expand, always trying to grow. Yeah. But it genuinely was one of my favorite horrors of the year, if not one of my favorite films of the year.
Mm.
And I'm just super stoked. As aspiring filmmakers ourselves, like, this is good, and this is
amazing.
This is something to hold on to and to really be excited about in the new wave of filmmaking and what it can mean for indie filmmakers.
Yeah, I think bottom line, like, what we're always fighting against as filmmakers is a risk-averse industry. And so any time a risky, quote unquote, decision is paid off, I hope that what the industry takes away is taking risks is good instead of copy and paste this risk that paid off.
Right.
So anyway, I just feel like we, as indie darlings, we had to touch on that as the biggest news in theatrical box office as of the last couple of weeks. But yeah, shall we get into what gave us pause this week?
Yeah. Give me a sec.
Okay, I'm gonna be vulnerable with y'all. I'm gonna peel back the curtain. I'm gonna peel back. It's my body resisting me vulnerable. And it's not even real vulnerability. Like, that was the setup to a joke. Basically, I had food poisoning this week, y'all. I had food poisoning.
You did.
And as a girl with a sensitive tum-tum, tummy issues warrior, I'm used to having an upset stomach. But when there's a devil inside you, there's a devil inside you. And one of my love languages is snacks. I love food. To eat is one of life's greatest pleasures. And I was not able to eat this week. I was surviving off of 2 crackers and a dream. But what gave me pause is that my first meal out of purgatory was a lovely home-cooked meal cooked by our friend Colleen. We had a lovely reunion sleepover because Danny is in town. And I don't know if it was because it was the first meal I successfully ate in a week, but that food gave me pause. I was tasting with all my taste buds, and I was living. Sometimes a good meal and good friends can bring you back from the bathroom floor.
And I love that for you.
Thank you. Danny, have you had time to think of what gave you pause this week?
Yeah. That didn't sound really hopeful.
If you don't say seeing me, then you're fake.
Mind you, you didn't say seeing me.
Because I was thinking about a food.
Right. No, definitely coming home to London has given me pause this week, being surrounded by friends and very excited to see more friends during my week-long trip here. And yeah, I think, just being somewhere that I love and around people that I love after a very tumultuous past few months for me has theoretically taken me up off of the floor.
Wow, you had to walk with me.
Walking.
You had to dispel the mental demons.
Mental.
The way that I had to dispel
your physical demons.
My stomach demons. Wow. Well, it goes without saying that I'm elated that you're here. And we're always, when the cosmos comes together and our brainwaves are in the same country, it's unstoppable.
Right.
It's unstoppable. But thank you guys so much for listening. We will be, trust me, revisiting Spielberg in further episodes, but it was so much fun just to say how much we love him.
Just to tell him we love him.
Just to say Thank you for inspiring these two indie darlings and probably countless other indie darlings out there. And it's also just really fun to revisit work of such a prolific director and to think like to get inspiration to be like, oh, like the way he frames that, his trademarks, like the way that he harnesses this and that, like is I'm excited to create my own stuff. But and like that's the sign of a good director is if they inspire you in that way.
Yeah, and he's magical. I wish nothing but joy in his life.
I wish that he always sleeps on the cold side of his pillow, that he always finds a penny heads up on the sidewalk, and that he gets all that he wishes in dreams.
Yeah.
Well, if you enjoyed this episode, please, please, please share it with somebody you think might like it. And if you want to keep up with us and see Rachel's amazing graphic design work, please follow us on socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at PausePodGirls. And you know, Danny's always cooking up something in the social media kitchen.
I try to be whipping it in that social kitchen. So you'll be seeing clips. You'll be seeing behind the scenes. We filmed some cringy ass TikToks while we were here.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's how much we love film, is that we lip synced to things.
And that could be viewed by you.
That could be viewed by you. We'll see you next time.
Bye.